right, welcome to another episode of Piecing It Together, the podcast where we take a look at a new movie and try to figure out what movies inspired it. And today on the show, we're going back to the MCU for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, the latest MCU film, which also happens to close out the trilogy of James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy films. And I know I'm a little hard on Marvel movies lately, but I loved this movie, so I am really excited to talk about it. Joining me is Chauncey Telese from LA Podfidential, and we have a great conversation, lots of really great puzzle pieces. So that's coming up here in a second. Before we get to it, I do want to remind you, as always, to make sure you're subscribed to Piecing It Together wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow us on social media at Piecing Pod. Join our Facebook group, Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces, where we continue the conversation about all the movies we talk about here on the show. And don't forget, we do have a Patreon, the Produced by David Rosen Patreon, where I post bonus and advanced content from Piecing It Together, Awesome Movie Year, and from my music career. Lots of great stuff over there. It's patreon.com/bydavidrosen if you want to sign up. Keep listening to the show, just in general. I appreciate that. But if you want to sign up and, subscribe to the Patreon, that's nice too. I love it when people do that. So, yeah. Otherwise, just keep listening, make sure you're subscribed, share the show, comment, leave some puzzle pieces if you think of some that we didn't bring up. All of that is very much appreciated. Keep on listening. Thank you for being out there. Let's talk about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. All right, it's time to go back into the Marvel Cinematic Universe again, but this time, I'm actually excited to talk about the movie. We're talking about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and joining me is Chauncey Telese. Chauncey, how are you doing?
It is an absolute pleasure to be here and talk to you about the MCU, especially when it's a positive one.
Right? It's rare. It's seriously rare for me, and this is as far as you can go. This is one of my all-time favorite Marvel movies out of the very many, many, many of them we've gotten over the last 15 years or so.
I know, when I saw you and a few other people tweeting hey, this is good, I was like, oh, I'm actually really gonna love this because I'm kind of a mark for this stuff, but and I
Sure.
get it when people aren't into it, but I was worried. I'm like, oh man, is this really gonna kill my vibe again? And then oh, the crankier people enjoy it, so I'm in good shape.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no one was more surprised than me when I was sitting there in that theater just laughing and having a great time and getting emotional and everything that, James Gunn and company wanted from us. It was hitting me on every angle. So, yeah, very excited to talk about it, getting to some puzzle pieces. I got a bunch here. So, rather than do the usual, just getting started talking about the movie, blah, 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 let's just get into some pieces right away. What do you have for your first puzzle piece?
My first piece is a big one because I can't imagine it wasn't an inspiration for this particular storyline. But do you know the graphic novel We Three?
I do not.
So it's about animals that were genetically tested and then they decide to break out. And I really feel like Gunn drew a lot from this because it's also very tragic and they're all friends. They're trying to help each other, just try to live elsewhere. And there's tragedy abound, and this movie has that in spades. My wife and I had a real hard time with that part, and then we
Oh,
had
yeah.
to she had to hug our dog when we got home.
Oh, definitely. I hug my dog every day when I get home, but still, you definitely definitely have to. Yeah, I don't know about this graphic novel. I'm not really a big graphic novel guy, but it sounds heartbreaking and potentially very good.
And I forget who wrote it off the top of my head, but I know it's one of those I can't imagine Gunn hasn't read this or at least seen it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it sounds really interesting. Great piece to kick it off with, and yeah, the animal cruelty angle of the movie. I mean, it's very deliberate and I think done really well. I know there's been some debate online about whether or not it's too maybe gratuitous or kind of leans into that too much or whatever. I think it's done really well. I know, PETA came out in support of the movie. I mean, it really does feel like it's coming from a good place of this villain is just the ultimate piece of shit, and our heroes are fighting back against it, and this being mainly a Rocket storyline, it really just fits so well, I think.
And it's an arc that they basically set up since the first one. It
Sure,
pays off.
absolutely. Well, I'll go to my first piece, a very much less heavy piece, but I'm going to my favorite movie from that other superhero, timeline, the DC universe. I'm going with Aquaman for my first puzzle piece here. Um,
Oh.
just a jaw-dropping, visionary piece of over-the-top, insane comic book action, just filling the frame with so much interesting stuff visually. Everything that they could possibly fit into every single scene. And this is something that could backfire so terribly. We just saw it recently with Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania as like a worst case scenario of trying to do that. And of course,
Hmm.
when we're dealing with all this like, space travel and quantum realms and all these kinds of things like that, we're really running that risk every single time out with these kinds of movies. And I still am a big defender of Aquaman. We have talked about that on the show
Oh, I
before.
love
I
Aquaman.
think it's so good, and I think James Wan did such a great job of like just going full throttle into a vision and just filling every single scene with as much as he could, but not in a overstuffed way, more in just like a painting a picture kind of way. And that's what I feel like when I'm watching these Guardians of the Galaxy movies in general, but especially this third one. I feel like it all just kind of solidifies, and he James Gunn now is like really really putting together something that is special and unique, and yeah, is overstuffed, but overstuffed in a way that like everything finds a balance, and you still get those stakes, you still get something where you can tell what's happening on screen even though it's so stuffed.
Hmm.
It's really a balancing act, and he really nails it.
And in like one, it's uniquely his.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a total vision.
All right, my second puzzle piece. I'm going to the Counter Earth. That is the island of Dr. Moreau.
Sure, yeah.
Like animal human hybrid. Like where else did you draw from? Like that's the apex for animal human hybrid.
Yeah. Yeah, it's totally Dr. Moreau. I had that on my possibilities list here as well. It's a really interesting and obvious piece. Like it's like such an obvious parallel that you can draw there. And this villain is so good. I mean, I've seen a lot of people talking about this on Twitter, and I mean, it was something I thought about like right when I was walking out of the theater was like I love this villain because he's just a pure and total piece of shit. And sometimes that's cool. Sometimes it's great for a movie.
Right, and I've seen this debate because this comes up a lot with Disney too. And I think it's just we're swinging back to it because remember we liked nuanced villains because it's like okay, well we've had enough of our Gastons and our scars like our mustache twirling villains. Let's get some more nuance in here. And now
Yeah.
we're the pendulum swinging back because it's like well the real world has enough like mustache has enough like nuanced villains or whatever. So let's just go back to mustache twirling because that really reflects who we are.
Yeah, absolutely.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, so that's a great one. I'm gonna go with another piece that like goes right into that same thing of like talking about the villain and his whole master plan of creating this other Earth with like a perfect society and all that. I'm going with Alita Battle Angel for my next puzzle piece.
I had a
Um,
similar puzzle piece for that too, but go on.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, I think, obviously there's kind of a cyberpunkish like design to a lot of these futuristic like semi-humanoid creatures, and
Hmm.
again like a huge work of vision here from Robert Rodriguez and Jim Cameron and the people who made the original manga, and like there is just so much of that, again, vision. That's like the big thing with this movie and a lot of my puzzle pieces I have here. It's like vision of something unique and interesting that doesn't just feel like let's just splatter whatever we can on the screen. It all feels like, an actual world that is fantastical and over the top and insane, but also like really works. And to the whole
Hmm.
point of this villain's like, plan of creating this other, planet, like that is kind of what the villain in Alita was looking for too.
My puzzle piece accompanies that would be Shrek because it's very much Lord Farquaad energy.
Okay.
Like I
I you know
demand perfection, I demand a perfect society. Meanwhile, he himself is not perfect.
So do you know that I don't think I've ever actually seen Shrek. Like
What?
I know, like I remember I was so out on Shrek when it first came out. Like I just thought it looked so unfunny, and I might have seen it back in the day, but I mean, of course, Shrek is, took over pop culture for a while, so I'm aware of it very much, but like I don't know if I've ever actually seen the movie.
Oh, like the John Lithgow performance is so funny. Like it's one of those like he's totally dialed into what the material asks of him, and like Lord Farquaad's such a good cartoon villain
Yeah,
because there's a little bit of Mr. Burns in him too, where he's just a screw up, but also a megalomaniacal maniac.
nice.
So like when he's interrogating the gingerbread man, it's so funny.
Megamalon. How do you say that word?
Megalomani I don't know,
Now
megalomania,
you can't either. Now, huh? Th-
megalomaniacal. There we go.
There you go. Yeah, those guys are always so much fun in movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, great puzzle piece there, and yeah, maybe I'll finally get around to Shrek one of these
Like
days.
it's,
We'll
I think it's one
see.
of those things. Like you circle back to it now, you're like, you know what, this was way like a little overhated. Like once it gets to like 3 and 4, I was like, okay, this is run its course. So I think 1 or 2 are still good. Like I'm on the island of they're actually not that bad and weren't poisonous to pop culture. Like get over yourselves.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm going to combine two puzzle pieces here because they both kind of deal with the same thing. And
Mm.
and this is talking about Rocket's little buddies that he hangs out with in
No
the
way.
cell there, and which is like kind of the main emotional crux of the film, that Rocket was being experimented on with these weird little creatures who are all like animal hybrids. And I thought of both Meet the Feebles, Peter Jackson's
Mm.
insane over the top Muppets kind of parody ish film, and the South Park Woodland Critters.
Oh boy.
um, I mean, these guys are just so weird and just kind of deranged in a like a almost too happy, too like happy-go-lucky kind of way, even though they're in this horrible, awful situation. And it just totally reminded me of those characters and just how ridiculous and insane and deranged they are.
That's a good one. I wasn't even thinking about that. I'm like, wasn't it just too nice to be the woodland critters? Like, the woodland critters are very mean.
They are very mean. I mean, if they had gotten out and if the right circumstances had, like, they might have, obviously Rocket scratched off the high evolutionary's face. So, I mean, who knows what those guys could have done.
And became a bounty hunter, which you lead me to my next puzzle piece, which is actual like back to James Gunn's roots is trauma with the toxic Avenger. Because when the High Evolutionary like peel his face off, like that's what Rocket did to him. He made him look like the Toxic Avenger, with like the
Yeah.
one eye bugging out, and just like it's all just raw muscle.
Yeah.
I was like,
he
oh
goes
wow,
he
like
goes
that's
from Toxic Avenger to being RoboCop, basically.
mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's why I'm like, oh well, that's why like Rocket is he is obsessed with Rocket because like he can't understand that Rocket it could evolve from like that stage, and like that's not how it's supposed to go.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. No, good one. Another movie. Aren't we getting a Toxic Avenger like reboot from Macon Blair with Peter Dinklage?
I don't
Maybe.
know. That's one of those things I've been trying to reboot forever. Like, and either just falls apart or just there's no interest in it anymore. Like,
Yeah.
The Crow is kind of in that same place too, but on a bigger scale. Like, oh, we've been hearing about a Crow for like 20, 25 years, like, at least.
Yeah, I think we could use that. I think it'll be fun. But
He's the right person, and because you have to keep the spirit of it. It's just a gross movie.
yeah, absolutely. Well, to go to some of the other creatures that inhabit this movie, that are all, they've all gone mad because as we learn, the process for creating them has made them all like turn into like violent creatures,
Hmm.
and that's like why the high evolutionary wanted Rocket to fix it all. I was thinking of Smash TV, the video game.
Oh,
Um, just these, I've been using a lot of video games lately. I don't know why that is, but as puzzle pieces, but just these waves and waves of just part human, part robot, part machine like creatures just getting just splattered and shattered and torn apart. There's that whole hallway sequence in this that is just so
oh
freaking
yeah.
awesome. And like those guys, they really do kind of remind me of the creature design in that. And yeah, I mean, just some really cool stuff there.
I feel bad for that scene for one thing though, because like Mario already had the No Sleep Till Brooklyn action sequence like a month earlier. I'm like, bad timing.
Yeah,
And I don't think it
sure.
deserved it as much as Guardians did.
Yeah. Although Mario was fun,
I know
so
Mario's fun. I just like, oh,
yeah.
they double dipped, and I know nobody knew that was coming for either project. So
Yeah.
like, it's just a weird coincidence.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like we got
Um,
all these true stories of brands movies all in like within the span of 2 months.
oh yeah, And but sticking with your same topic, I was gonna go with The Fly
Sure.
because
Yeah.
of the machine that melds the animals and creates them into these horrible things. Like it
Yeah.
felt very like I got like a small fly homage. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't go quite full Cronenberg, but close.
The closest that we're probably going to get in an MCU movie, that's for sure.
hmm I would have thought like maybe if Raimi comes back for Doctor Strange 3, you could see something like that, but maybe I don't know. Like that would be
Yeah.
the only other thing. Or if if they do allow like Blade to get very weird, if that ever
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah, if that ever happens, that is right. But yeah, great piece there, and always great to bring the Fly into a conversation for sure.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I will go with the Alien prequels for my next one,
Oh,
Prometheus and Alien Covenant. We've got this creator who is just kind of mad with power, who wants to like find answers and create like a better world and a better society, and now his creation is like rebelling against him. And David, who is like the most interesting character in modern sci-fi, I think, played by Michael
mhm.
Fassbender. In a way, he's kind of in the same place as Rocket here. I mean, very different movies, of course. This is like a big space adventure type of movie, whereas Covenant and Prometheus are much darker and more just dreadful kind of like sci-fi. But both where these creations are basically rebelling against their creator, and it made me think of that, and also just kind of the implications of creating some kind of life and what you owe to it and what it owes to you and all that kind of stuff. You don't expect something like that to really be explored in one of these kinds of movies.
Oh, absolutely. And then my next one, it's sort of like I don't know who to describe this trope to because like Iron Man 3 does it, but I'm gonna use Ocean's 13 as well. But like when a main character gets comatose and then it brings the rest of the team into action because like at Ocean's 13 Elliot Gould gets like injured by Al Pacino's people and that's why they decide to rob his casino. Or like in
Sure.
Iron Man 3, the Mandarin blows up John Favreau and so Happy's in the hospital, like that trope. But I'm gonna go with Ocean's 13 just because we don't talk about Ocean's 13 enough.
Yeah. Okay.
And sort of like a side puzzle because idea that like Rocket like they can't operate on him because there's the kill switch thing. That also reminded me of Hellboy too, like when he gets stabbed with the staff, and it's like, oh no, if you keep going closer to the blade, it's just gonna go deeper into the heart. So like that's why they had to
Mm.
get him to the Pan's Labyrinth creature that they
Oh,
find in
sure.
Ireland. So it's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, those two things it triggered both of those things for me like simultaneously.
Yeah, interesting. That's like a bunch of like really interesting stuff there. And I wasn't even thinking about that. The idea of like Rocket he having the kill switch and like that being like the crux of the whole story and why they have to go on this adventure, and like yeah, that's something that we've seen some version of that before. And, Hellboy 2 is a good example of it, but there's definitely others where the person will die if they don't.
Alien too, I guess you could say, because that's why they can't peel the facehugger off. Because it's
Sure.
like, oh, well, just gonna strangle more.
Yeah, there you go. That works too. So yeah, good one there. I like that. Um, I will go with Star Wars: The Last Jedi,
Oh,
because Chris Pratt gets his Princess Leia, Mary Poppins moment here,
ah,
um, where he gets ejected into outer space and almost dies, but he doesn't use the Force exactly. But he gets
he uses
rescued
Adam
by
Warlock.
Adam Warlock. That's right. Adam Warlock popping in, who is another character in this movie that I loved. I mean, I keep gushing about this movie. I even loved him.
Me too. And I know people are like divided on him because I know like in the comics he's like way more powerful and like not 12, but I really like the idea to make him a mama's boy, kind of like Prince Charming and Shrek 2.
Okay, back to
It just
Shrek.
occurred to me. That wasn't even a puzzle piece. It just occurred to me now. Like he's like this fierce warrior, but it's like total mama's boy, and Leslie just
Yeah,
kind of like a kind of a loser.
nice. I like that. That's great.
That wasn't
Yeah.
even in my next one, but because you brought up Star Wars, I'm like, oh, Return of the Jedi.
Oh, okay.
The Florence and the Machine dance at the end reminded me of like the Ewok celebration at the end.
Okay,
Well,
sure.
because like
So
they're all partying, like they've all earned it. They've all like really been through, their like various battles, and it's like they're just blowing off steam, and they're just so happy to be with each other again.
yeah, why not? Lots of Star Wars in here. So
Most of the Guardians sort of was like just even from the first one, like, oh yeah, this is their riff on Star Wars.
no, yeah, that's absolutely right. I will go with something that it actually took me a little bit of Googling to figure this out. I had this memory from my childhood of some property that I loved where there was a garbage planet filled with all kinds of like ooey gooey trash. And in this movie, in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, we have this planet that's kind of a organic like
Hmm.
planet. It's like a ship planet thing, and it's like made of like almost fleshy like material. So it sent me on a little quest trying to figure out what this was, and it was the original Transformers cartoon. It's the Junkion planet.
Oh, okay.
I haven't seen it since I was a kid, so I don't know. I don't know like how it works or what the setup was of any of that, but that has been something that's stuck in my mind since I was a kid. This planet that is out there in outer space, just filled with sticky, gooey, goopy stuff.
Interesting. Okay. 'Cause that sort
Yeah.
of gave me, it wasn't the same thing because they don't shrink or anything, but it gave me like Fantastic Voyage vibes. 'Cause they're
Okay.
sort of like
Yeah, that could
inside
fit in
like a
there
human,
too.
sort of like inside a human body.
Yeah,
I didn't,
absolutely. I would even go with last year's Strange. What was it called? Strange
Strange
World.
World.
Yeah.
Yeah, that works too because that's what they end up being inside of.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely. So like you could go with any of those and they that all kind of fits that same kind of vibe of like what that weird crazy planet thing that they were on was.
Exactly. You're really inspiring a bunch of these for me. I was like, oh, I have like X amount of puzzle pieces, and you're just like picking more to me. I love it.
Yeah, nice. I love it. Well, do you have any other pieces you want to bring up?
Team America.
Okay.
Because there's one specific sequence like where it's Nebula, Drax, and Mantis are in the basin with the monsters from the second one that eat the batteries, and like Mantis is trying to talk to them and calm them down with her power, and Nebula's like, "No, you can't do that. Like your powers don't really work." It's like, and then that ends up like, "Oh no, they're scared," and they end up riding them. Like that's
Mm,
similar to in Team America when they're trapped in like the Black Panther cage by Sean
yeah.
Penn and Martin Sheen. And it's like, oh, you don't really have powers, and it's like, no, no, no. And she controls the Black Panthers to go attack Sean Penn and Martin Sheen. That's what that kind of reminded me of.
Nice. That is awesome. And of course, like, I already brought up the South Park Woodland Critters. So I mean, there's, a lot of that kind of humor in what James Gunn does just in general. So
Exactly.
yeah, so for sure, I love it. All right, I'll do my last puzzle piece. I recently guested on the Cult Worthy podcast, and that is where I discovered this movie that I had never seen before from 1989, Arena. Have you ever seen
Okay,
that?
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it.
It's basically Rocky on a spaceship, with a whole
Oh,
bunch of weird, funky alien creatures, and it's totally ridiculous. But it's just, again, I started this off with talking about the vision of the whole thing. You watch that movie, and it's like just one of these like forgotten little sci-fi things, but like the attention to detail and creating all of these weird creatures, and they all have like their own unique looks, and they all like I remember when I watched it for that podcast and we were talking about the movie, I was like, I kept thinking to myself, like, where are all these costumes and props now? Like, obviously, that was pre CGI. Now everything in this was probably made with CGI for the most part, anyway. Uh,
well, they set the record for having the most practical or most
oh,
prosthetic.
really? That's
They
pretty
the
cool.
who had the record before? It was something. Oh, it was the Grinch.
Okay. The Grinch has great practical effects.
And then a lot of the sets, especially like the Nowhere set, was like pretty much all practical. Like obviously spiced up with CG here and there, but like those are real sets. And even like the Organic Planet, I think, was a lot of set.
See, and that makes such a difference because I mean, not to go back and shit on Ant-Man and the Wasp:
Sure.
Quantumania again, but like, when you watch that movie and you can't even tell that he's getting small or big because everything is
hmm
just a blip on a CGI screen. Like,
That's the only one I haven't seen. Like I just never got to the theaters to see it because like stuff was just going on. So I'm waiting for it on Plus. But like that's actually the only MCU I haven't seen yet. But
yeah,
I'm like nervous.
yeah, it's not good. But yeah, Arena is my last puzzle piece. So yeah, really just weird, crazy stuff happening on a spaceship. Lots of crazy creatures and a lot of fun. So I will read down our list of puzzle pieces here. We started off with the We Three graphic novel, then went on to Aquaman, The Island of Dr. Moreau, Alita Battle Angel, Shrek, Meet the Feebles and the South Park Woodland Critters, The Toxic Avenger, Smash TV, The Fly, Prometheus and Alien Covenant, Iron Man 3, Ocean's 13, and Hellboy 2, Star Wars The Last Jedi, and a bunch of other Star Wars, Shrek 2, the Junkion planet on Transformers mixed with Fantastic Voyage and Strange World, Team America, and Arena. Lots of weird out there crazy puzzle pieces, but it's kind of a weird out there kind of crazy movie. So
Wow. And then what a send off for Gunn.
yeah, seriously. You know, love or hate Gunn, like he really pulled this thing together, and I think I don't know. To me, it's crazy to not like look at these Guardians of the Galaxy movies as like a real shining spot in the whole MCU,
Hmm.
regardless of how much you love the MCU movies in general.
I agree. Like I rewatched 1 and 2 just cause, and I was getting ready for the third one. I'm like, man, these are just really good. Like, I know
Yeah.
people shit on 2, and I don't really know why, but like 2 is so full of such good stuff. Like I know it can feel a little bloated, and
Mhm.
like at the end fight does get a little marvelly, but like
Yeah.
man, there's some good stuff in here. Like, and it's all done to the purpose.
Yeah, one day I'm gonna revisit, especially after how much I loved 3. One day I'm gonna revisit 2. I didn't like hate it or anything like that,
Mhm.
like, but it was definitely like a step down from the first one. The first one I love. I mean, who doesn't
Me
love the
too.
first one?
I
Yeah.
do think Ego's a better villain than the Ronan the Accuser. Even though like I
Mm,
appreciate Ronan more because I'm like he's Lee Pace is just going for it, man. Like,
yeah.
like like he's really chewing it, and I appreciate that. I just wish they gave him a little bit more time to breathe. But then again, they're trying
Yeah.
to feel that they're still feeling their way through all of it. So like it's a miracle that movie works at all.
Yeah.
Because it's funny to think about like when that was coming out, they're like, okay, like I think Marvel's hit a wall. Like who's gonna see a movie about a raccoon in a tree with the dude from Parks and Rec?
Yeah. Or as I call him, the dude from Strangers with Candy the movie. But
Oh, that too. But like, I don't know, just like from like this guy who made like one like horror movie that bombed and like a little superhero movie with Dwight from The Office. Like, okay,
mhm.
like why
There
would
you
they
go.
pick him? And then he had to fight for the soundtrack, which is so funny to think about now
I know.
because it's like the best-selling non-original soundtrack of all time.
Yeah. He knows what he's doing. I guess maybe we should trust him with whatever he's doing with Superman.
Uh-huh. Like I've seen like the cast list. I'm like, there's people that I've never heard of, but I'm like, that's just because I'm old.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I'm like, okay, I
Exactly.
know Nicholas Holt, I know like Rachel Brosnahan and like one other person. Like I don't know who the other people that are auditioning, but Godspeed, I guess.
Well, the only other thing I wanted to bring up with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is there's been talk about how it has the first F bomb of the MCU,
Yeah.
and fuck, like what a great one! Like it is so perfectly calibrated. I feel like did
Mhm.
you get a good laugh out of that?
Oh yeah, our theater loved it.
Yeah, fantastic moment. Really, really fun stuff. And yeah, I think that does it for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Is there another movie you watched recently that you'd like to recommend to our listeners?
I mean, it's been a lot of rewatches. Honestly, like I don't get to go to the theater that often.
Hmm.
So like next week I get to do Fast X, hooray.
Sure.
So like I rewatched Sin City for the first time in like years.
Oh,
Like it's
nice.
a movie like I watched a lot in high school. Go figure. And then it just
Yeah.
kind of like stopped. And then I watched it the other night because it was on HBO. And I was kind of going on a Robert Rodriguez kick. And I'm like, hey, I haven't seen this movie on a high def TV before. Like
Mm.
it looks great. And some of the stuff I'm like, okay, yeah, like I remember this still being a little extra. But I'm like, I appreciate some of these performances a lot, and I didn't the first time around.
Hmm. It's actually funny that you bring Sin City up as your recommendation, because I was literally just like 2 days ago thinking to myself, like, how is it that I haven't revisited Sin City like in at least a decade? And I used to watch that. I probably watched that movie like
Same.
10 times.
Same. I had like the special edition DVD, so like the second disc you could just watch the individual story, and then it had like 5 or 10 minutes more of stuff. You know,
Yeah,
like I like saw the special features because I was just like, wow, this looks really cool. How do they do all this? And then they just was dormant forever. And
yeah,
then because I'm like, oh yeah, it's like edgelord to the max. I'm like, okay. But then you watch it again, you're like, yeah, it is, but like there's a charm to it.
yeah, yeah. Oh, that would be a fun one to revisit for sure. That could actually be a good breaking it apart episode. Now that I
Oh
think
yeah,
about it,
like
but
I think most of the Rodriguez catalogs on HBO Max because they have that Hypnotic movie with Ben Affleck. Um,
sure.
I was like, oh, Dust Till Dawn. I haven't. Oh, when's the last time I saw that? Or
Yeah,
like,
me neither.
I'm like, oh, Desperado, Once Upon a Time in Mexico. Those are good.
He's good.
Underrated catalog. It's a very
Yeah,
weird catalog, but like underrated.
absolutely. I
Faculty's on
completely
there.
agree. Yeah, sure. Why not? Throw that in that list too. But awesome, Chauncey. Thank you so much for joining me on the show again. I think was this number 5?
This is my 5-timers club.
Oh boy.
I got my jacket, and I know, and I get to be back in about a month for Elemental.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. But in the meantime, where can people find you and your podcast?
Absolutely. You can find me on Twitter or Instagram at BigChauncey64, and my podcast is LA Podfidential. We are right now covering like mostly the NBA playoffs and the Dodgers, but like superhero news we cover a lot. We cover all the movie trailers. I'm watching all the Cannes reactions like a hawk, especially when we get to like Flower Moon and Asteroid City.
Yeah,
So we do a whole bunch. We do LA sports, but then we also just do deep dives into pop culture.
Awesome. Well, everybody check out LA Podfidential. And Chauncey, again, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, and I look forward to you being on my show in August when we do our fall end of the year preview.
I'm looking forward to it.
I'm Josh Bell.
And I'm Jason Harris, and we co-host a podcast called Awesome Movie Year.
Each season, we take a look back at an awesome year for movies, which is every year.
We deep dive into these specific years, and we pick out why they were such great years for films. We go over the biggest hits, the biggest flops, the best picture, some personal picks, some cult classics.
Years we've covered in past seasons include 1994, 2003, 1977, and 1984, and we've got all of film history to look forward to. So check us out at awesomemovieyear.com or wherever you listen to podcasts.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that conversation about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Thank you to Chauncey Telese for joining me on that one, and congratulations on being a part of the 5-Timer Club. Everybody, if you're enjoying the show, make sure you are subscribed. And if you really enjoy the show, maybe drop us a 5-star rating and review over on Apple Podcasts or Good Pods. I'd really appreciate that because it helps make sure the show gets seen and heard by more people. So drop your 5-star ratings and reviews. And of course, make sure you're subscribed. Follow us on social media at Piecing Pod. Join the Facebook group, Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces. And don't forget about the Patreon that I told you about at the top of the show. So that does it for today's episode. Let's close this thing out with a piece of music like I always do. And, you know, poor Rocket getting put through all kinds of awful things in this movie. I'm going to go to my album of novelty songs about my pets, the Pup Pups, which, believe it or not, I've been talking about this for years and years and years. It's almost done, guys. It really is. And I'm going to play a song from the Pup Pups. This is about my dog, Sadie, who passed away a few years ago. I talked about it on the show. But when an album is delayed for 10 years plus, you know, that does happen. And we miss Sadie every day. We love the rest of our animals. But this is a song sung by my dog, Sadie. She used to always get in trouble and do things that she knew would get her in trouble. But she did it anyway. This is a song called I'm in Trouble by Sadie Pup. So hope you enjoy it. We will be back with more Piecing It Together. And the Pup Pups album's really coming very soon. But we'll be back with more Piecing It Together real soon.
I'm in trouble again. I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble again. Another day goes by as the world turns. I'm in trouble again, 'cause I never learn. I'm in trouble. This time I really messed up, but it's not my fault. I'm just a cute little pup. I'm in trouble. I did something real bad. I'm gonna get in trouble from my mom and my risked it all, and now I hear my parents yelling from down the hall. I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble again. I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble again. Another day goes by as the world turns. I'm in trouble again, 'cause I never learn. I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble again. I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble again. Another day goes by as the world turns. I'm in trouble again, 'cause I never learn. I'm in trouble.
An All Points West production, produced by David Rosen in Las Vegas.